Well, it has been a long week so far. I've come from Boston to New Hampshire, from New Hampshire to Boston, and then off to Chicago and back after 2 days. It's all been within the past 4 days, all of these little videos. I'm glad to be back home now with the family, grabbing a little bit of lunch. I'm going to quickly talk about the use of the BC liner for Transcrestal cervical root repairs. Now, what is a Transcrestal cervical root repair? Cervical root resorption is on the rise, perhaps due to increased use of orthodontics or perhaps even trauma. So when these types of resorptive defects on the root are subcrestal, or meaning that they're kind of below the attachment apparatus, they're going to end up being fully covered by the gingiva and the tissues. And in those kinds of situations, you want to use the most biocompatible bioceramic available, and that would be the use of the BC putty. However, in some of these lesions, when they're in the location they are, if it's kind of going across the attachment apparatus and parts of the resorption are below the gum line and parts of it are just above into the salivary area, you can't use something like the putty in the oral fluids because clearly it's not hard enough on the surface, and it could, toothbrushing and chewing functions and things like that could chip it away, and it could dissolve away. So in those types of situations, what you want to use is you want to use something stronger. And historically what we've done is we've used something like Gerastore for this type of repair. And here BC liner comes to be an advantage over the Gerastore for the specific uses. First of all, because the resin that's in there is microfilled, and therefore the surface ends up being much smoother than what you end up getting with Gerastore. And the fact that it's self-etching and self-bonding means that most of the time you don't really need to use any etching or bonding. Of course, if you are going to be bonding to enamel, I would recommend that you also etch for just about 6 to 10 seconds prior to the placement to just get a little bit of an additional bond over there. But you certainly don't need to use the bonding agent, which will save you some time in these particular applications. So let's take a quick look at this case that was repaired with the BC liner, and you can see just the flow of the material over this resorptive defect that was fully removed and cleaned out. Is very nice, and you don't end up needing to do much smoothing, but certainly at the end using of some smooth finishers or fine diamonds would help. And of course at the end, if you prefer, you could also use a polishing kit for composites to get even a smoother surface at the end. So that is the 6th use of the BC liner, and we'll come back in the next video and talk about the 7th use, which is kind of a long-term provisional.